There's something incredibly powerful about stories that focus on elderly characters, especially in Korean dramas and films. In an industry often dominated by youthful romance and fast-paced thrillers, these stories slow things down and ask us to sit with time, regret, love, and memory. They remind us that life doesn't end at 60 or 70. In fact, sometimes the most emotional chapters begin there. Today, we're diving into 10 Korean dramas and films that center on the lives of older adults, stories about friendship, unfinished dreams, illness, reconciliation, and love that refuses to fade. And as we go through each one, I really want you to think about your own parents or grandparents. When was the last time you truly listened to their stories? Dear My Friends, 2016. Dear My Friends is one of those dramas that feels almost documentary-like in its honesty. It follows a group of elderly friends navigating the realities of aging, including Jo Hee-ja, a 72-year-old woman who overhears her children arguing about who should take responsibility for her. That moment alone says so much about the fear of becoming a burden. What I love about this drama is that it doesn't paint old age as quiet or passive. These characters are loud, flawed, stubborn, funny, and deeply human. They fight, they gossip, they dream. It challenges the idea that elderly people exist only in the background of younger lives. Watching this made me reflect on how often society talks about caring for parents as an obligation rather than a privilege. Do we truly see our elders as individuals with ongoing stories, or just responsibilities? The Most Beautiful Goodbye. In The Most Beautiful Goodbye, we meet Kim In-hee, a mother diagnosed with terminal cancer, who quietly begins preparing for her departure. This story is devastating in the softest way possible. There are no exaggerated twists, just the slow, painful awareness that time is limited. What struck me most is how often mothers in dramas are taken for granted until they're suddenly not there. In-hee's preparation isn't just about death, it's about dignity and love. It asks a difficult question. If you knew your time was short, would you spend it fixing broken relationships, or simply sitting beside the people you love? I think this drama hits hard because many families avoid conversations about illness and death. It forces viewers to confront something we all fear but rarely discuss openly. Navillera 2021. Navillera tells the story of Sim Deok-chol, a 70-year-old man who decides to pursue his lifelong dream of becoming a ballet dancer. Just saying that out loud feels revolutionary. Ballet is usually associated with youth, flexibility, and physical peak performance. Watching someone in his 70s step into that world is both inspiring and heartbreaking. This drama beautifully explores ageism and the quiet regret of postponed dreams. How many people bury their passions because life demanded practicality? Deok-chol's journey reminds us that it is never too late to start, but it also gently asks why we wait so long. I personally found this story uplifting because it reframes aging not as decline, but as courage. If you had a dream you abandoned years ago, would you dare to chase it now? 60 Days of Summer, 2018. In 60 Days of Summer, we follow Lee Dong-il, a man in his 70s enjoying a quiet life until his grandson disrupts his peaceful routine. At first glance, it sounds like a simple family story, but beneath that is a meditation on generational gaps. The elderly often crave calm and predictability, while children bring chaos and noise. Yet sometimes, that disruption is exactly what breathes life back into a stagnant routine. I find it interesting how this film portrays irritation and affection coexisting. Family love isn't always warm and cinematic. Sometimes it's grumpy and reluctant. This story makes you think about how different generations misunderstand each other, but also how they heal each other. Have you ever felt annoyed by a family member only to realize later they changed you for the better? I Can Speak, 2017. I Can Speak is inspired by a true story and centers on Na Ok-bun, an elderly woman who decides to learn English to fulfill a long-held promise connected to her painful past. What begins as a somewhat comedic setup transforms into something profoundly emotional. I love how this film balances humor with historical weight. It shows that elderly characters are not just fragile figures, they are survivors carrying decades of untold stories. Learning a new language at an advanced age symbolizes resilience and unfinished missions. This film made me question how often we assume older people can't adapt or grow. Maybe growth doesn't stop. Maybe we just stop expecting it. What hidden stories do you think the elderly around us are still carrying? Drama Stage Season 1, Not Played, 2018. Drama Stage Season 1, Not Played introduces Na In-suk, a woman in her mid-60s who unexpectedly discovers joy in playing billiards. It might sound small compared to grand themes like illness or lost family, but that's what makes it special. Sometimes fulfillment isn't about dramatic life changes. It's about discovering pleasure in something new, even something playful. I think society often expects older adults to slow down and shrink their world. This story does the opposite. It expands it. Watching someone embrace a hobby without embarrassment feels refreshing. It reminds us that identity continues evolving at any age. If you were free from judgment, what hobby would you try right now? Salute d'Amour. Salute d'Amour explores late-life romance between Kim Sung-chil and Im Gum-nim, whose relationship faces resistance from family. There's something tender about watching two older people fall in love. It strips romance of flashy passion and replaces it with companionship and quiet devotion. Yet the conflict with family approval reveals a strange truth. Society sometimes struggles to accept that love doesn't expire. I found this film touching because it presents romance as something timeless. Why do we celebrate young love but question older love? Shouldn't the desire for companionship be honored at every stage of life? The Light in Your Eyes, 2019. The Light in Your Eyes tells the story of Kim Hae-ja, a 70-year-old woman believed to have the ability to manipulate time. While the premise feels fantastical, the emotional core is grounded in aging and memory. Time becomes both a gift and a curse. If you could rewind moments, would you fix your mistakes or relive your happiest days? This drama uses its supernatural element to explore regret, gratitude, and the fragility of youth. I personally think it's one of the most thought-provoking portrayals of aging because it forces viewers to value the present. Aging isn't just about losing time, it's about understanding it. Stand By Me, 2018. Stand By Me centers on a grandfather who realizes he doesn't have much time left and decides to prepare a meaningful gift for his grandson. This premise alone feels like an emotional storm waiting to happen. What moved me about this film is its focus on legacy. When people approach the end of life, they often think about what they're leaving behind. Not money, but memories, lessons, love. It makes you wonder what kind of emotional inheritance you're creating right now. Are you present enough with your family to leave something meaningful behind? Canola, 2016. Canola tells the story of Jae-chun, a grandmother living in Jeju who reunites with her granddaughter after 12 years apart. Reunions in cinema are always powerful, but this one feels especially raw because it bridges lost time. 12 years is not just a number. It's birthdays missed, hugs delayed, conversations that never happened. This film beautifully captures the complexity of forgiveness and reconnection. I think it resonates deeply because many families experience distance, whether physical or emotional. Watching Gi-chun navigate hope and fear made me reflect on how fragile family bonds can be, yet how strong they remain underneath everything. Stories about elderly lives might not always dominate headlines, but they quietly leave the deepest impact. These 10 Korean dramas and films remind us that aging is not the end of relevance. It's a continuation of identity, love, and growth. They challenge us to rethink how we view our parents and grandparents, and even our own future selves. After hearing about these stories, I'd love to know which one touched you the most. And more importantly, when was the last time you had a meaningful conversation with an elder in your life? Maybe tonight is the perfect time to start.